Yeah, but I mean, normally, like, you want to get called by worse. I mean, raising for protection. We talk about protecting your equity in the hand. I just don't think that it would happen in that particular spot. Wendy's got ace-king here. She makes it 30. Again, it's a straddle pot, so 5-5-10.
Yeah. I mean, I'm probably just calling with sevens as well. Okay. That said, you know, you and I, we can agree to disagree. I don't hate the raise there. I really don't.
Check fine. Do you know what it was from?
And Craig defended with queen 6. Ron in there with queen 10, so a couple people flop top pair.
Yep. Paul's got second pair.
Wow, and look at Wendy fire into 5 people with ace-king. It's a dry board,
100.
but it's just one of these things, Dave, and I talk about the amount of factors that go into c-betting. One of the biggest factors, besides image, is number of players.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just like...
It's really hard for her to be good, but at the same time, it might be tough for any of these players to actually call her. Ron's not going to go anywhere, though. He's going to call with his queen 10.
I don't know. He's thinking about it. I mean, the flip side to that is the more players you bet into, whether it's on the flop or if you're doing it on the turn, especially on the turn, you know, if you bet the flop as a bluff and 2 people call and then you bet again on the turn, it looks so strong.
Our hand looks incredibly strong here. This is such an easy fold for Craig, but I noticed this last week. You know, he's really opened up his game, and you know, and I'm not sure if it's good, obviously, for his game.
Now, for example, here, oh, he's gonna check raise. Oh, wow. I was gonna say, Dave, it was like, let's say, for example, they both called, and you know, you're
such a weird check raise.
You know, you're into, like, you know, observing people's mannerisms. If the turn's a deuce and it gets checked to you, do you bet again if you're Wendy? Does it look so strong? Can you get these guys off of a hand like queen 10?
I'm not usually in the habit of trying to bluff in this game.
Yeah.
You know, more often than not, I'm looking to make hands and get value from them. In the 5-10 game, I'm probably more apt, especially depending on my opponents. If I'm playing against Fred, yeah, I might bluff. If I'm playing against Jeremy, I might bluff at it. If I'm up against Ron, though, I'm probably not trying to bluff. This is a really interesting play by Craig. I mean, obviously, he's turning his hand into a bluff.
I don't know. I mean, who knows what he's doing?
He's not raising the 350 hoping to get. He can't get. I mean, this is actually he's got to be turning his hand into a bluff. He can't get called by worse.
Yeah, but it's such a strange play, though. Why?
I'm sorry. Yeah, he can't get called by worse.
So why would he do this with queen 6 as opposed to 5-6? And it's almost even better.
Maybe he would do it if he had 5-6. He just doesn't have it. He just happens not to have that hand.
See, it's tough for me to get into these guys' heads. But
of
this is what I'm going to surmise.
How is this a raise for value?
No, it's not. But I think that he thinks he might have the best hand, so he's going to raise, whereas he would never do it with 5-6. But the problem here is that once he gets called, he's like, uh-oh, now I know I'm not good, which is the problem with the raise. It's almost like a tournament play. It's really, you see this in tournaments a lot, like really strange, like top pairs types of raises.
The funny thing is it actually puts experienced players up against it when they play in this game because the play is so unorthodox.
I got to tell you, if Wendy had kings or aces here on that, she might have folded the flop, and it would have been. I think I would fold aces or kings there if I was in Wendy's spot.
Of course you would.
I know.
You bet, you get called, and then you
get raised in the middle, right?
Of course,
it's really weird.
You're folding anything but 2 pair. I mean, you're calling with queen jack, obviously, but even with queen jack, you don't know if you love it. You realize that there's a good chance your opponent has pocket 5s.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, obviously combinations-wise, it's less likely. If he's defending wide, he could have. I don't think you can ever fold queen jack because he can have jack 5 and queen 5.
Right, you can't because he could have. But if let's say he's the kind of player that never has jack 5, never has queen 5, and you have queen jack here, how much do you like it?
Yeah.
I mean, is there a difference between queen jack and say aces? Only a little bit. You can make the argument if your opponent never has queen 5 or jack 5.
I'm actually shocked at Ron Stakins. I mean, I guess that he's just, you know, he's having a hard time.
You know what?
He's going to fold, though.
Ron is soul searching, okay? Ron is seeing through this guy's eyes. He knows he's full of shit. He's going to call here. He's all in! Yeah, Ronnie! That's right, buddy.
It's such a strange
He's all
hand.
in. I love it.
Such a weird hand.
Ron is all in.
So weird. It really is. I mean, I don't even know what to say about the analysis of this hand.
You can't. I mean,
I know, you can't.
The funny thing is the pre-flop raiser, Wendy, she's played like 7 hands, okay? Her VPIP is 20. She doesn't raise that often. She raises and puts out a huge continuation bet when 4 people call her. She's showing enormous amount of strength. And what do these guys do in the face of strength? They stick it all in there with 1 pair.
Now, the funny thing here is that, so Craig's getting 3-1 here, but of course you can fold, right? Now, it looked like Ron was pained, but if you're out kicked, which I think is a great portion of Ron's range here, you're a huge dog.
Well,
I mean, how often do you check raise and then get back raised 4-bet?
Yeah.
You wouldn't buy the fact that Ron never had a big hand, but you can't beat Queen 10. You can't beat Queen 9.
It doesn't make a difference, by the way. This is where a lot of experienced, good players can level themselves because you start overthinking and you go, well, he can't do it. Throw that all out the door. Throw it all out the window because when you get an amateur, when you get a less experienced player playing poker and you start playing against them, you realize that a lot of their plays don't make sense because they don't necessarily know what they're doing. They're looking down, they got a pair of queens, they don't know what else to do, so they stick it in there. Obviously, Ron not thinking, well, if my opponent has me beat, he's probably going to call. If my opponent doesn't have me beat, he's probably going to fold. There's really no value to me shoving. He's not thinking that. He's just thinking, I got a pair of queens. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah,
I'm going to stick it in there.
I think I got the best hand.
Well, I don't know if I have the best hand, but I'm scared. I don't know what else to do. So I'll just stick it in there and see what happens. And I think a lot of good players, they level themselves because they go, this play doesn't make any sense, though. It just doesn't make any sense.
Now, the funny thing here is that Craig actually folds. He actually check raises top pair and folds. Now,
bizarre hand.
The weird thing for Ron is, let's talk about if we somehow ever got in Ron's spot there and we thought we were good, what would be the right play? Would it be to call and then just basically check call off the turn as opposed to push back in here on the flop?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Especially because your opponent, remember, you're not super deep where you're like, oh, well, your opponent only has another $400 or $500, right?
The only thing is that are you ever allowing your opponent, like if he does this with King 10, to basically take a card where he would call off? I mean, if you think your opponent's
he's not taking a card though. He's actually charged himself more. He could have just called 100. He actually made it 350.
No, but what I'm saying is that if you call and he takes the card on the turn,
you can take the card.
You wouldn't ever think that he was like check raise folding the flop. Unless, I guess, he had total error. It's just that's probably one of the strangest hands I've ever seen. A guy check raising like Queen 6.